Hello everyone, and welcome. I don't know if it's not as light here on YouTube. Some of the lights are not working here at IMC today. So it's darker here for me, but I brought out the spotlight, so maybe there's a little bit more light and you can see well enough. So one of the name for the people who were the title or the reference word for people who were the direct disciples of the Buddha is that they are the savakas. And the word savaka means the ones who heard, the hearers. And so, I mean, back in the ancient world, there was no books, so there was only hearing. If you any learning you do was you had to hear it. And so, but there's something I think very profound about learning the art of listening. Learning to listen means that we don't assert ourselves in the middle of the hearing. We're attentive. We kind of clear the chatter in the mind, the static in the mind, so that we can hear well. In the ancient world where you couldn't go back and refer to books or transcripts of something, if you wanted to remember and consider what was being said, you had to listen well enough to be able to memorize it or to really learn something about it. And so it was probably was kind of second nature in the ancient world to listen with a higher attentiveness or a certain kind of sharper attentiveness than we do in the modern world, because of this need to kind of let it register really deeply so we can remember and have it as a reference. And so this metaphor of listening can be listening can be used as a metaphor for meditation. That the kind of attention we're bringing to ourselves is to listen well, to listen without the static and chatter of the words, the images that come up in the thinking mind that interfere with our ability to perceive, to sense, to feel, to hear, to see with the inner eye our experience, and to see without interference of bias, judgments, commentary, but to really be a good listener, to listen first, to find out what's there first, to give, if you're listening to a friend, to really hear them out, to hear what's going on. Maybe active listening where you maybe ask questions to find out more. You want to really know your friend, know what's going on. So the same thing when we sit down to meditate, we really want to know our experience, know what it's like to be here. And it can interfere with meditation, paradoxically, it can interfere if we're focusing too much on becoming calm or centered or somehow settling our agitation or trying to attain something. It can interfere with our ability to really listen well, to see, to really attend well, to sense and feel more fully what is here, what's going on. So to be a listener to oneself, to really take the time to see, sense, discover what is here. And it's a little bit of a paradox that instead of focusing on becoming calm or becoming concentrated or becoming settled, if we just really get to know carefully, attend carefully, listen carefully to what's here, that movement is itself settling, calming. If we listen well, if we listen without interference, without expectation, without wanting something from the listening. Just to listen, just to perceive, just to be here with what is. So for this meditation, we can maybe use this metaphor of listening as a way of being present for oneself. So, assuming a meditation posture, and either lowering your gaze or closing your eyes. And without doing anything more than that, notice how you are. As if you're sitting down with a friend and taking them in as they are today at this time, ready to listen to them. Sit down and just kind of notice yourself. How are you? What's happening within you? Is there anything you can perceive about yourself if you read your posture? Anything about your posture that reveals your mood, your attitude, state of mind? Anything about how you're breathing? Does it inform you at all about how you are? And the task is just to notice, not to fix, not to judge, but to notice so that as time goes along, you can be a better listener, a better companion for yourself as you are. How are you emotionally? How is your thinking mind? If your thoughts were in a foreign language, so you couldn't understand what you're thinking, what would you perceive about yourself as a thinker right now? What would you notice about what thinking is like? And then in the middle of how you are, center yourself on your breathing, as if the breathing are the words that you listen to when you are listening to a friend. Open, clear, attentive. At the center of all things is breathing. Breathing in and breathing out. Perhaps listening through a deep listening, listening from a deep place, without commentary or judgments or agendas, just what's here, listening with a quiet mind, or if the mind is not quiet, listening deeply to what is thinking. If you were to listen deeply to how you are, is there something about how you are that you normally don't acknowledge? Is there some truth about the situation, about yourself, that you can listen to, acknowledge, attend to kindly, without any reactivity? An acknowledgement and deep listening. What is this that you might normally overlook or avoid? And as we come to the end of this sitting, to maybe reflect on the value of listening well to others. To listen before offering our own opinions, our own stories. To listen not only for what is being said, but listen to where people's speaking comes from inside of them. What's the emotional or source, the motivational source? What's behind the words? To listen with respect, for what is behind the words, even if you might not agree with it or find it pleasant. To listen well. To listen as a way of bringing kindness and love and respect. To listen well, to bring people a sense of safety, that you're a safe person for them. To listen well so that you can better enjoy and appreciate something good about people. May our practice of mindfulness support us in bringing non-conflict into this world. May all beings be happy. May all beings be safe. May all beings be peaceful. and may all beings be free. Thank you. So, good day, everyone. And then continuing the list of the tenfold list the Buddha gave on the 10 protectors, and it might be just as useful, or maybe more useful, to call these 10 supports. And life can be quite challenging, and the challenges can be unexpected, and our inner life can be challenging, and inner life can be unexpected. Just all the ways it shifts and changes, sometimes seemingly for no reason. And so it's good to have supports. It's good to have supports to find our way and not be overwhelmed or excessively challenged. Good to have supports that keep us balanced and centered and attentive in a clear and wise way. So the fourth of these supports, so far it's been having virtuous conduct, behaving in such a way that our behavior doesn't challenge us and doesn't make things more difficult than they need to be. To learn the Dharma, to learn good skills in life, to be studied and kind of prepared for what we're doing. And understand the bigger context. And the third is having good spiritual friends. Surrounding yourselves or having reference to friends that bring out the best in us, who have our best wishes in mind, who want to support us, who care about our well-being, but to do so from a place of freedom, place of not demanding or expecting or judging us for who we are. Having good spiritual friends. And today the support is being easy to speak to. Be someone who it's easy for people to say things to you. And in Bhikkhu Bodhi's translation of this particular sutta, he defines it as easy to correct. And in the Buddha's commentary or discussion about this point, he describes it as being easy to receive instructions and respectful of the instructions we receive. So whether instruction sometimes maybe is feedback, is people telling us difficult things that are difficult for us to hear, but maybe we need to hear. That maybe sometimes people have criticism of us, have critiques of us. And so to be easy to speak to. So it's an act of generosity towards others. If they want to come and speak to us about something, that we're generous to them. We are willing to receive it. We'll take it in and available for it, not to be defensive automatically, not to be offensive because we don't like what we're hearing, not to immediately meet criticism with criticism or with shutting down or with anger, but to have the ability to be open, to hear what's being said in an open, relaxed way, while so we can really know what's going on. We can track ourselves, what's going on in ourselves, and we can track others and what they're saying well. And in such a way that we're actually safer. There is a way of protecting ourselves by being angry, and then people just want to go away, or they shut up, or they stop what they're doing. But the relationship is damaged that way. And long-term safety is not attained. Long-term safety comes from really knowing what people are thinking and feeling and processing and working with it. To be angry and getting someone to shut up so they never talk about difficult things again, I think makes the situation much more difficult and challenging, because then we don't know what's underneath and what people are thinking and what's driving people to what they want to do. So to have the capacity and the wisdom and the skill to listen first, to be easy to speak to, and it can be very challenging to do this. It can threaten our sense of self, that we're capable, that we know everything, and there's nothing anyone needs to tell us. And the fact that someone needs to tell us anything is a sign that somehow they think we're wrong or bad, or they're challenging our self-image of being, quite capable and knowledgeable, and we're more in the person to be talking than the person to be receiving. The idea is what they're saying is feedback about us, can touch some very difficult, sore places inside. We can interpret it in ways that it's much bigger deal than what is actually being said. We can interpret it to mean that we're fundamentally flawed, and this is the proof of it. We can interpret it that people are being mean and unfairly critical. And of course, sometimes they are. But even if they are, do we have to take it personally? Do we have to, is there any need to reply? There's a whole other art there's an art to receiving criticism where we don't believe it, we don't accept it, but we also don't fight it. We might listen carefully, and then we might say, I'll think about it, but I don't think I agree with you. And well, that's interesting what you're saying, and I'll have to think about it because it doesn't seem quite right to me. And that's kind of gentle way of saying you're not behind it exactly, but you are respectful of what's being said. And maybe there is some little piece of it is true, or what's true is that the fact that someone has critiques of you, maybe what's true is not the words, but behind the words. Why are they doing this? Maybe they feel challenged in the relationship. Maybe they're afraid. Maybe something's happened that has created a rupture in the relationship, and this is their way of trying to establish a connection. So this idea of easy to speak to. People are comfortable in speaking to us. People don't have to be afraid of us when they speak to us. So this is tremendous support and protection, because then if there is something we need to hear about ourselves, some way that we're off, people are comfortable to come and tell us. And this is considered in the Buddhist tradition, people like that are a treasure. It's really a phenomenal gift and tremendously valuable to have people come to us and say, you said something and that didn't quite work, or that was challenging, or I think that what you did hurt the other person, or I think what you did was, what you said there, or what you did there has been difficult for me to listen to, and I feel hurt, I feel afraid, Can we talk about it? Um, I've known people who are so reactive and so tense and so immediately attacking anybody who comes and says anything to them about who they are personally, that no one wants to talk to them. And I've known, as a teacher, I've known people that way, and who I've known for years and years. And it was very difficult even as a teacher to get through the barrier, the wall that's there. And then at some point when it felt really important that to say something to one person, I finally said I knew it would be difficult. And in fact, the person became very angry for about a minute, very upset. And then the person quieted down and thought about it and came back and said, "Oh, now I understand what's happening with me and other people. I didn't understand." And that was a turning point in I think, the person's life. And within a few years, the person ended up dying. And I think that that conversation we had was such a big turning point that it contributed to that person's ability to die peacefully. And people would come, all kinds of people came to sit with the person, and because it was so wonderful and pleasant, and to be with a person who no longer had that reactivity and defensiveness and anger. So I think she was quite lucky to have someone finally be able to speak to her and say something. And it's unfortunate if we have to wait until crisis before we're willing to hear some feedback from people. There is some people who actually invite feedback and say, please, if you see anything I say or do that is not right, please speak up. I welcome it. And maybe just do it at the right time. Don't do it when I feel grumpy or when I feel kind of under the weather. But I want to hear. So easy to speak to, available for the community to say anything, and to have the inner resources, inner strength, to not take it personally, and to be able to stand up for oneself if necessary. This is not being a pushover for what other people have to say, but it's also not being in conflict for what they're saying. And so this is a protection, because then we don't end up in conflict. It's a protection because we can learn about what we need to learn about ourselves. And even if it's not about ourselves, we're learning something about the relationship we have with the other person. And maybe there is where work needs to be done. And if we take it personally and then attack back, the relationship stays ruptured. But if we hear it, acknowledge what we've heard, maybe even repeat back, is this accurate, what I've heard? Then it settles people. They know they've been understood. And then you can say, well, I don't think that's right, and here's my understanding of it. Or, I don't think that's right, but before talking about what you're saying, I just want to say that, I care about you, or we're friends, and I want to find a way to have this conversation to maintain our friendship. And because sometimes what's going on is underneath the person's criticism, there is something that different that needs to be addressed, some challenge in the relationship. And to be able to listen and hear that what's underneath it sometimes is invaluable. And that also supports everyone. It also is a protection for oneself and for others. And so this being easy to speak to is not a lightweight thing to do. I believe it's a phenomenally significant, powerful thing to do. And I like to think of it as one of the fruits of doing mindfulness practice. This kind of deep way and be able to monitor ourselves, know ourselves, track what's happening as things are happening, that it supports us to have this capacity to be willing to hear even difficult things, or to if you want to be well protected, if you want to be well supported, be easy to speak to. Become a good listener, and listening both to people around you, but also listening to yourself. Listening not only to the words, but listening to where the words are coming from. Not only listening to the words, but listening to where those words land inside of us. And this will make us easy to speak to and find support and protection in being this way. So thank you. And I would encourage you to look for opportunities, even the smallest opportunities, even things where people say things that are relatively mild in criticism or feedback or something's difficult to hear. Experiment with being just, rather than closing down, in a sense, turning towards the person. You don't have to do this physically and literally, but as if you're stepping forward and kind of being available with open arms to hear. Tell me more. Turn towards the person and rather than away, and this expression, "tell me more," is a powerful and effective way of disarming people when necessary, and a powerful way of learning more fully maybe what we need to hear. So, thank you, and may we all be good listeners today.